Hi guys, my name is Eclipse. This is another meta-analysis video, and today I'm going to bring you guys something super cool. We're going to talk about the 6.84 new items in depth. We're going to talk all about different 3 crafting stuff, where I expect to see these items, who I expect to see them on, etc. It's going to be pretty awesome. So, also I'm going to create a annotation system so you guys can go straight to the item of your desire. If you don't see that, that's because either you have annotations off or I have not made it yet. So sorry guys if that's the case. And anyway, let's get underway. So, first item is the Enchanted Mango. Now the Enchanted Mango is essentially a Soul Ring active that gives you 1 HP regen, which is pretty irrelevant, but it's something. It's a Soul Ring active, you can cast it on allies, you have to double click to cast it, and it does not give any, it doesn't damage you when you cast it, unlike Soul Ring. So, this is a pretty cool item in several ways. Like, for example, if I'm playing Storm Spirit, I can hold one of these as a get out of jail free card. For example, I am out of mana, the Slark goes on me, I can pop this and run. Now that might not be enough to save my life, but it's practical, and if you also have a Soul Ring, that's 300 mana instantly. So, it's also good on a hero like Crystal Maiden, whose mana pool is really crap. So you can, like in the early game, you can get off 3 spells instead of just 2. So it does have some pretty cool implications. I don't think this is a good lane regen item. I wouldn't advise using it in that way. I could be wrong, but I think this item is more for immediately replenishing your mana to cast more spells instantly. That's just my view. Anyway, next item, Orb. Now, Lotus Orb is fairly interesting as an item. Out of all the items in this, the new items in this patch, I think this is the least viable one. So what it does is that you cast it on your ally, it has this pretty cool animation where it does that, and it's pretty awesome. Now, there are a few things to note about Lotus Orb. I need to turn WTF back on. There we go. So, Lotus Orb, now, alright. There are 2 ways you could kind of use this item. One would be to cast it on yourself and then go in to try and deter spells being cast on you. I don't think this works on... Hang on, let's see if this works on AoE spells. It does not. So it has to be a spell targeted on you, and it doesn't work on all spells. For example, it does not work on Pounce. Alright, so this item is good in certain situations, like you could reflect like a Laguna Blade, and so I like that, but the thing is, once again, when do you use this item? There are only 2 times you can really use this item. Like the first time, I kind of got sidetracked. I said you can use this before you go in to dissuade them casting spells on you, kind of in the same way you would use a Blade Mail if you initiate. Either to force them to take damage or to not focus you. And the other way you can do it is if you see an animation, like, or you predict it, and you just cast it on them in time like that. Kind of in a similar way you can use Lincoln's active too. So, it's an interesting item. I think, like I said, out of all the items that are being added, this seems like the least viable item. Reason being, it's kind of awkward to build. There aren't many heroes who benefit from what it gives you as a whole. I'd say most offlane, most initiators do, especially like strength initiators with low mana pools like Axe or Centaur Warrunner would benefit from this pretty well. But I think the active isn't that good. It has a good cast range. That's the one good thing it has. It's 900 cast range, so I can cast it from all the way back here. I think that's, yeah, that's about max. So that's really long. This would be decent for sieging, because you can cast it on your carry, and then they go up and hit the tower, and then enemy doesn't really want to cast spells on them, but it only lasts 6 seconds, it doesn't reflect everything, so I think it's the least viable, but it's definitely interesting, and I expect to see it on, like I said, offlane initiators the most. I don't expect to see this on supports, carries, or, well, I guess some mids maybe would buy it. More utility-based mids, but for the most part, I don't think this counters any specific hero to much of a degree. So, this is the least viable item in my opinion. I don't expect to see it a ton. Next, we have Glittering Cape, is it called? Glimmer Cape, okay. Glimmer Cape is a really cool item. Now this is a new support item. What it does is it promotes Casual Cloak for one, because Cloak now builds into something other than Pipe, and Pipe got buffed in this patch too, but basically this is a 5-second invisibility, and while you're invisible you also get 66% magic resistance. So, for example, if I stand in front of this Slark, if I cast this, it does nothing. However, if I am visible, it also gives me magic resistance, so that doesn't do that much either. So it's pretty cool in that respect. You can use it to save carries, for example, like this, and then carry runs away. Important things to note about this ability: you do become visible if you attack. You do become visible if you cast a spell as well, I believe. So yeah, and if you're visible, it has a very fast fade time, however. But if you're visible when it hits you,
Don't get caught.
you will take full damage from magic. Or whatever. So, yeah, but honestly the fade time is just so good. So this is a really cheap escape ability, really cheap survivability ability for supports, because you don't really want to buy dust to kill support heroes either. This is good for saving allies as well. I think this item is really good. I like this item. I expect to see this item a lot from supports, especially against magic damage heavy lineups, such as like if you see a Zeus or a Lion, something like that. And like you could also cast this on your ally who's getting jumped, right, so, to save their life. So this is an incredibly strong support item, in my opinion. I expect to see it a lot. Next, we have the Greaves. What exactly are they called? Oh, where's my Enigma? My Enigma is a base. What the hell? Whatever. So anyway, while we wait for Enigma, let's meet him in the middle. Make this a bit faster. So, the Greaves, Guardian Greaves, do some interesting things. Now, I think the best thing this item offers is that if your teammate is below 20%, like so, a little bit more, they're getting plus 15 armor from this, as well as 15 health regen. Now it's only, I believe it's only 4, it's 2 armor and 4 health regen if they're not below 20%, but once they get to below 20%, 15 armor is a lot of armor. You have to respect that. As well, it has the active, which is basically a mech and arcane boot combined, and it also dispels, silences, and slows on the hero that casted it. It doesn't really work on, it doesn't dispel the heroes in the AoE, however, only the user. Important thing to note, the big problem I have with this item, actually, never mind, I forgot about this item. This item is the least viable, in my opinion. Lotus is second. Now, the reason this item isn't viable is there's very few heroes who want to build this item. Now, what I mean by that is that, okay, this item costs over 5k. This item is, I'll go check real quick. How much is this item exactly? Is it near the other boots? Yes, it is. This costs 5,300. That is a lot, and it's essentially a tier 4 support item. Now, there are 2 reasons you don't want this. One, in the ultra late game, you want boots of travel. So, you still need to have an inventory slot in the ultra late game if you want to buy Guardian Greaves as a support. And if you want to buy Guardian Greaves as a support, it's going to have to be in the ultra late game, because there's not a chance in hell you're going to get them earlier than that, because they're 5,300. Now, the reason I have them on Enigma is one of the few heroes I can actually see buying this. Other heroes I can see would be like, farming Chen, like Puppy. When he plays it, he gets a lot of farm, so I could see a Chen getting this. Maybe a Darkseer, but I don't think this item is viable on very many heroes. They have to be a utility hero who farms well, and they also can't have BOTs, so I don't love this, especially with the BOTs buff. I think this item's not that good. I don't expect to see this item that much. I mean, the aura is really good, but no one wants to build this item, really. That's the big problem it has. And it's also too expensive. Next item, the Moon Shard. I got rid of mine because I used it anyway. Hang on, item, Moon Shard. Cool. Now, there are two ways I can see this Moon Shard item working. One way is, say I am playing, pretend the Storm Spirit is a strength carry. Pretend he's like a tiny. So, in his, like, third slot, he picks up this for attack speed, right? And he keeps this until he has 6 slots, and then he activates it, and now he has plus 60, and he fills that last slot. The other way I see it is, it's the end of the game, you're 6 slotted, you have a ton of, gold, like you have 7k gold on top of 6 slots, so you buy one of these, you drop an item, buy one of these, activate it, pick your item back up. So this is essentially the best 7-slot item in the game because it has a permanent it basically just doesn't, it gives you a hyper stone, I can't talk, sorry guys. It gives you a bit more than a hyperstone of attack speed for no inventory slot. That's what's really good about this item. Sorry, I was talking fast, I'm getting excited. Anyway, so that's the use of this item. I expect to see this item in ultra late game scenarios and on strength carries who rely on attack speed. This is a pretty good item on Tiny, pretty good on Sven. These heroes don't really have to buy Mask of Madness anymore, because Mask of Madness got nerfed, and this gives you more attack speed than Mask of Madness, which was one problem before, because nothing gave you more attack speed than Mask of Madness until now. So yeah, I think this item's pretty viable, and I expect to see it on carry heroes, not really any other kind of hero. Silver Edge. Silver Edge is a really cool item. I like Silver Edge a lot. Now, Silver Edge is the combination of a Sange, a Recipe, and a Shadow Blade. So this allows Shadow Blade to scale a bit better, which is really good for the item. And what this item does is two things. Now, it gives you the normal stats and stuff you get from the Sange, as well as the name. But the cool thing it does is it upgrades Shadow Walk. Now, it gives it 50 more damage, which is pretty irrelevant most of the time because this is a 5k item. But, it makes the enemy you hit with it do 40% less damage for 5 seconds, and it breaks them for 5 seconds. Now, I'm going to show you what break is. Break essentially means if I hit my PA here, my PA is no longer can evade, no longer can crit. It removes passive abilities. And at the same time, like I said, it reduces the damage. This is damage from all sources, so this would also work on, say, Witch Doctor ult. Yeah. Now, the thing that's... The one problem this item has is, once again, no one really wants to build it. Slark is an example of a hero that would definitely build this item. This is the new number 2 counter to PA because, Hex no longer removes evasion. So you can buy this to counter Phantom Assassin by hitting them, especially if it's a ranged hero. Like, a lot of people buy Shadow Blades on Lina. You could Shadow Blade up and hit a Phantom Assassin with Lina and then cast her spells, and then they're not going to be able to dodge. So it's a good counter to Phantom Assassin. And also they can't crit. That's another important thing to note. Before, Hex removed passives, but it didn't remove offensive passives because you couldn't attack. So it also removes, like, Aftershock from Earthshaker, for example. So this is a really cool ability. I like this. However, the thing is, like I said, not many heroes want to build this. Slark, I can see building this. I can see maybe Lina building this in the super late game, ultra late game, whatever. Like, most heroes don't want to build Shadow Blade. That's the one problem this item has. But the fact that this item now exists could actually change that fact, because now Shadow Blade can scale into a tier 4 item. However, for a tier 4 item, the active is amazing, but it only gives 32 damage, 30 attack speed, and 16 strength. That's pretty bad for the amount of money it costs. So I think we'll see this on Slarks, especially against PAs, but I don't think we'll see this an excessive amount. So yeah, next item. Solar Crest. Solar Crest is really awesome. I love this item. This item is another new support item. And what this item does is when you cast it, you can either cast it on allies, which gives them 10 armor and evasion, or you can cast it on enemies, which gives them minus 10 armor and mischance. So this is a really annoying item to play against, basically. It's so good at keeping your team alive, and it's such a piss off. The thing that's almost broken about this item is the 3k item that you pretty much have to counter if this item is being used correctly. And in order to counter it, you have to buy an MKB. So you have to counter a 3k cost item. I believe it costs exactly 3k, actually. Let's find it real quick. Solar Crest. There it is. Yeah, exactly 3k item with a Monkey King bar, which costs a lot more. Costs 5,400. So it's effectively a demon edge of net worth you have forced the enemy to spend on in an unhappy manner, I suppose. This is also a great Roshing item because it gives Rosh the mischance and the minus 10 armor, and it does go through his Lincolns the same as Medallion does. So again, and it also allows Medallion to scale a bit better. The last notable thing to say about this item is that this item can be disassembled. Now the reason this is good is because you could buy this item theoretically on a carry hero to increase farm speed. Because what you can do is you can disassemble to make a Talisman of Evasion into a Butterfly, or even a Halberd if you want, but more likely a Butterfly, and sell the Medallion of Courage, and you've essentially upgraded your farm speed at the cost of 600 gold, which is pretty awesome, actually. And it's also very good for staying alive. So I think this item's going to be very popular, actually. I think you're going to see it a lot on both supports and certain carries. So I'm looking forward to seeing the applications of this item a lot. I really like this item. I think this is one of the better items in this update. Last, we have the best, Octarine Core. Octarine Core is super cool. Now, I did a lot of testing on Octarine Core because it was kind of unclear what it did at first to me, in some respects. So, like I said, it says it does a percentage of damage caused by spells is returned to the caster as health. So, a few things to note. First of all, this does work on physical nukes and pure nukes. Okay, number one. Number two, they made this very unclear in the patch, and I don't know why it didn't have to be. This works on items, like you see. You get the lifesteal. Both the lifesteal and the cooldown effects work on items, and the cooldown effects also work on the abilities, obviously. So that's pretty awesome, because like this item would have been terrible on Tinker otherwise, but it's a pretty good item on Tinker now. Like I said, this works, and like here, it does not stack, so like you can see, this has 26.25 cooldown, and it stays. And I drop both, goes up to 35.
Like a wildfire.
So that's pretty cool. Now, as for where it does not work, it does not work in a few places. For one, it does not work when normal lifesteal would work, is the way I think it works. I could be wrong on that exactly, but so this doesn't work on abilities like Focus Fire. It doesn't work on the hit of Enchant Totem. It works on the it works on the Aftershock, but it doesn't work on the hit. Oh, as I was saying, one thing I forgot a bit earlier there, is this does also work on passive abilities like Aftershock and like Overload. Anyway, moving on. Like I said, this doesn't work on things where normal lifesteal would normally work. Also, it also works on counterattacks, I found. It works on Axis counter helix. I'll show you here. There, it works. Pretty awesome. Has that purple animation. It also works on orbs and DOT. I moved these guys a little bit by accident. It works on orbs and DOT. It doesn't work on counters, or this kind of counter, I suppose. It doesn't work on Kurosu skin. It works on orbs, like this kind of DOT. This kind of DOT. Actually, one thing I'm going to test real quick. / create hero, Clinks, ally, -- give bots item, Octarine Core. I spelled that wrong. -- give bots item. Item Octarine Core. There we go. Take some damage. Does this work on searing arrows? This does work on searing arrows. So it works on most orbs. It does not work on counter effects, passive counter effects such as corrosive skin and dispersion. It doesn't work on dispersion like here. She is not getting the lifesteal. Yeah, works on orbs. Awesome. It doesn't work on all passive abilities. Like it doesn't work on Desolate, for example. Not getting any lifesteal. I'm not sure how it works on Hunt. Every now and then I see it, but it doesn't really seem to do anything. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird effect. Anyway, again, it works on orbs like OD. You can see the purple effect. So basically, this is kind of divided in how it works, because this is either I categorized it in 4 different ways. On different heroes, this can either be incredible, good, or good. Incredible, good, mediocre, or not viable. So that's from top to bottom. Now, this is incredible on heroes with a lot of nuke damage, who are also, because they're going to benefit hugely from both the cooldown reduction and the as well as the whatever, the lifesteal. And another thing to note, I do not have heroes here that that cannot farm it. It is expensive. You can't really buy this on a support hero. So this is good on most int carries, such as Lina. Lina is I, Timbersaw is I being incredible. Quap, Zeus, Invoker and Tinker are both between incredible and good. I have Necrophos and incredible. OD is incredible, I'd say. So there are a good amount of heroes this is incredible on. Because they just benefit so much from everything. And also, like, it lowers their active effect cooldowns on their items. Good. This is good on Tinker. This is good on Enigma. Good on Pudge. I'd say it's good on Tide, but that's a bit of a stretch. The heroes I am listing here are heroes that benefit kind of from one effect and a lot from the other. So, for example, Tinker benefits a lot from the lifesteal, but he doesn't really benefit from the cooldown reduction. Enigma benefits a lot from the cooldown reduction, but he doesn't really benefit much from the lifesteal. Tide benefits mediocre in a mediocre manner from both, kind of. Use more for the cooldown reduction. And Pudge, one thing I forgot to show, this works on Rot, which is really awesome because, like, he's not even really dying. Now, obviously, I have a lot of Octarine Core, so he has a lot of health regen, but that's what I think it's really good on Pudge, actually. Mediocre. These are generally heroes with long cooldowns because this reduces long cooldowns by a lot. So Silencer, Magnus, Darkseer. Other heroes, I suppose, like maybe Panda would benefit kind of mediocre from this. Because it lowers those cooldowns by a ton. Like, where's my Enigma? Here, my Enigma has 135 cooldown on Black Hole. Before, he had 180. So it's a huge drop in cooldown. It's absolutely massive. However, I think this is equally good on heroes like, on skills without long cooldowns. Like, think about Timbersaw, I had him at Incredible. He's going to lifesteal a lot, and he's going to be able to cast his spells 25% more often, which is essentially 25% more damage. Now, I believe I forgot to say DP in Incredible. She does heal from Exorcism. So this is really good on Death Prophet. I forgot to list her. And everyone else, it's pretty mediocre. Or not mediocre. Everyone else, I'd say it's not viable, because they don't benefit enough for it to be worth buying. Like, you're not gonna buy this on, like, Anti-Mage to reduce Blink cooldown. It's just silly. It's not good enough to warrant actually buying that. So yeah, that's my opinion. I think Octarine Core is an incredible item on some heroes, and I think we will see it. Because some of the heroes that it's incredible on are pretty popular right now, like Lina, for example. I think this is good on Storm, but it's not incredible. We don't see Pudges, but, I guess No, I don't. I think this is still terrible on Axe. I was just pointing it out with that it works with counter helix. Like I said, like DP for example isn't popular, but it's super good on DP. We see Queen of Pain and Zeus a lot. It's super good on them. Invoker is somewhere between ING, and I think he's going to be picked up more because of his int gain buff. That was a really good buff, I think, and as well as Deafening Blast buff. I think he got probably the best buffs in the patch. So yeah. Anyway, that's my opinions on all the items of 6.84. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a lot of fun to make, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Eclipse out.